Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. We're live on Facebook Live here on Friday, Good Friday. How you, Brother Mel?
Doing well, buddy. Doing well. I'm just enjoying the Good Friday, man. It's kind of a whole different. And again, we apologize for coming on a little early. We came on early. Yes, Tulsi will be here at 7. We came on early because I want to make sure the system worked. And so thank you guys again on this Good Friday. And I'll just make an announcement now. We will not be online on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. We're going to take a break and give you guys all a break from us. We thought about even today, but I had already committed with Tulsi, so we're going to go ahead. I know it's Good Friday, a very important day for the Christian people and the Catholics, and but we're going to go forward. We're going to do it tonight. We'll have tomorrow night. We'll have Senators Ron Kochi and Donovan Dela Cruz to go over the legislative updates, the unemployment issues, and all
Ways
of that.
and Means, right? He's with Ways and Means. He's
the
the guy.
most
He's a money
popular-
guy.
Two of the most popular people in the Senate. So, and then Josh Green will be with us again. I spoke to Josh this morning, and he's going to come on either next week. We're waiting when there's new material. I think what we're seeing now with the numbers, we came off of a 7 case day. Everybody got excited and optimistic. I guess I would consider myself cautiously optimistic. Because we've seen these things happen in other jurisdictions, Charlie. We've seen it happen in other places, and not New York. I'm talking about other smaller jurisdictions. We've seen it. They get the cases dip, and then the spike happens. And we just heard today, Maui, another 4 more cases with that cluster. So we, by far, not even close to getting out of the woods. I believe we're still at the beginning of the curve. And why we all would like to think that there was even people talking about that was a start of the flattening. I'm no doctor, I'm no statistician, but I know I read trends throughout the country, and what I saw happening on Kauai or in Hawaii. Kauai, we're doing well. We've been at 9 now for I think 3 days, and that's kudos to all of you that are practicing the safe distancing and following the rules. But throughout the country, you see the same things happening. You get a dip. It could be for various reasons. It could be testing, numbers of testing, and how many of those tests were processed. See, we still haven't received the numbers. This is the question I'm going to ask of the senators tomorrow. Why can't we get the numbers of tests that have been done on each island? Why can't they tell us that, on Kauai, we've had 500 tests, 1,000 tests, and they don't tell us that. And they every time you hear the state's press conference, they'll talk about, we're doing more tests than anybody else, blah, blah, blah. What's the numbers? As much as I love our family and our brothers and sisters in the other islands, my concern right now is on Kauai. And I want to know what the numbers are for Kauai, primarily, anyway.
Well, along with that, today in today's headlines, Kauai has its first registered community spread, which is it's not surprising because we all know that, number one, this virus did not start in such a beautiful state as Hawaii. It came from the outside in. So it was nothing unusual, but it's just that, they're addressing it now. But now more so than ever, because they are saying that this individual is not travel related, right? And so therefore, we're saying, okay, they must have caught it from someone who was a travel related, or it was third down the line, travel related, infect somebody, and that's the road they're on. We don't know. But I would like to know this person who is deemed as a community spread individual that was not travel related. I would like to know where they've been on the island. And, again, we posed this question before. I am not asking for personal information. I am not asking where this individual lives. I just want to know, in the investigation or the trace contacts that was done by the DOH, right? They're the ones that are doing the investigation on these individuals. I would like to know where he's been. Then that way I can police myself. If I feel like I'm coming down with something and brother was at a place that I was and the timing is about right, then, I'm going to go and tell my physician that, hey, I was there. Because right now, all of you, what you don't realize is you just cannot drive up to a testing site and say, I want to get a test. It don't work that way. You're going to get referred by a physician. But you got to have some pretty clear evidence that you have something coming down and or you made contact with someone that's a known carrier. And in this case, if this individual was, say, in Lihue, by the harbor, at any one of the eateries, picking up food or whatever, or at a gas station, just tell us he was in that area. Then I can take it from there. I think we're all educated people. We don't have to be rocket scientists, but yet for some reason, they want to hold that information real tight and they don't want to let it go. And for what reason, I have no clue in the world. I have no clue in the world, Mel.
I understand. And, again, as the people coming on, let me just, for all of you that are just coming on, Charlie and I came on a little early today to make sure the system works. Tulsi will be joining us at 7
Yes.
o'clock. So she is going to be on. And I know the numbers are rising quite quickly. So I understand.
Yes.
You're not here to see Charlie and Mel. You're here to see Congresswoman Gabbard.
Oh, I thought they was here to see us.
I thought so too, but I look at these numbers, my God, when you and me on, we don't get this kind of numbers. So
yeah.
And then a lot of people come on at the end. They come on like at 5 till 8 for the finale. Everybody wants that finale, flattening of the curve.
You know what I'm afraid of, brother? You know what I'm really afraid of? When this is all said and done, and we go back to playing music like how it was before, I'm afraid we're gonna have a pack house at Color Hill Steak and Ribs, and our first song I sing is all flat, make okole. That's what I'm worried about.
Well, that might be the new trend, though. Some of the music the kids like today is all flat. Anyway, you cannot understand what they say. And
yeah.
But again, as we get through this, you see the camera angles change. You'll see the speaker, or you'll see all of us on. And I want to apologize because I keep looking down because I have my cell phone here so I can track the comments. So if you have any questions, Congresswoman Gabbard also has she'll see the comments as well. Please be respectful. I know, there's some people that based on the comments that are not happy. So, let's be respectful. Let's get as much information that we can of what's happening in DC that impacts us here in Hawaii.
Yes.
And I know, Charlie, you had wanted to make a little disclaimer.
Yes. Aloha to all the viewers here that join us, that give of themselves, because you can be doing anything that you want right about now, but you have been so loyal, a loyal following that have come on every night with us at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. And I'd like to say, first of all, thank you. But with respect to Congresswoman Gabbard, because she is our present Congresswoman, and I respect that. And we all need to respect that. She's in Washington. Some of you may know that when she announced that she was not going to run for her seat, and the announcement was made by Senator from the Big Island, Kaali'i Kahele. He contacted me here and asked me if I wanted to be a co-chair, which I accepted. So to be fair to everyone, I just wanted to put it out there and be transparent that I am a co-chair for Senator Kai Kahele. But tonight, it's not about that. It's nothing political tonight. It's all about getting the information for you folks of what Washington has in store for us here locally. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. I just wanted to make it transparent, let you know where I am. And I am going to treat Congresswoman with the utmost respect because as of right now, she is still our Congresswoman. And I respect that. So I just wanted to let all of you folks know that. Okay? Thank you, Mel.
And they are knocking at the door. So I'm going to let Representative or Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard in. And we also have Kaulana Finn, it looks like. So we're going to have, wow. Gosh, I am honored. There's Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, and I see Kaulana was knocking on the door as well. There's Kaulana. Kaulana?
Aloha, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
All
Thank you very
right.
much.
Thank
I see
you.
Kaulana. Kaulana is in the house, but she's not gonna.
I think she's trying to get on Facebook right now, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, Charles, you want to do your little?
Aloha, Charles. Aloha, Mel.
Aloha.
Thanks for having me
hang on,
here.
hang on. We gotta do this right, Congresswoman. We gotta do this
Oh
right.
boy, we have such a beautiful person on tonight, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from, I believe it's Honolulu,
Kailua,
our
on
present
Oahu.
Congresswoman, 2nd Congressional District. Please welcome the beautiful and talented Tulsi Gabbard.
God's country, Kailua. You know, I lived in Kailua for a few years.
Nice.
Right. Yolo Hills, went to Kailua Intermediate.
I like it.
Yeah. Charlie
It's
wanted
home.
to just bring you in, and you'll see us. You'll see how he
Beautiful.
takes us out at the end. It's hilarious. I mean, it's actually pretty
Beautiful.
cool. Anyway, we're not gonna waste any time, Congresswoman. Thank you for joining
I
us.
love
We
it.
appreciate. I know you're busy. We appreciate what you're doing for us here in Hawaii. So we're gonna turn it over to you. We're straight up, and we'll
Thank
be
you.
taking questions. And here you go, ladies and gentlemen,
Awesome.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
It's great to see you. Great to see you both. Great to be able to talk to everybody who's joining us here tonight. I'll give you a quick update or some highlights on what is happening at the federal level. And then we can talk story about, you know, what's happening here at home in Hawaii across the state. As you know, there was a big funding bill that was passed a couple of weeks ago now in Washington. And the goal of this assistance package was primarily to get direct assistance to individuals, to those who are unemployed, to small businesses, as well as those in different major industries being most directly impacted by this pandemic. We're starting to see there have been some glitches, unfortunately, along the way. The money is not getting out as quickly as the administration said it would, but we are starting to see some of those resources making it to our state. The latest announcement was $132 million coming to Hawaii and distributed to over 1,700 healthcare providers across the state. These are people who are on the front lines, public health officials, healthcare providers, and so forth, to help cover the costs that they are incurring as they are responding to serving the needs of people of Hawaii here. Just a few days ago, there was over $10 million going to community health centers, 14 community health centers all across the state. We've seen money going towards CDBG funding to each of our counties across the state. And the number one question, we had a telephone town hall the other night, Wednesday, and I forget, today's Friday, right? I'm losing track of the days here. We had a telephone town hall on Wednesday, and one of the biggest questions that people were asking is, hey, where is the $1,200 per person that we were promised? This is, for those of you who may not know, it's a one-time $1,200 direct assistance payment to every single adult who makes under $75,000. If you make more than that, you'll get a little bit less. You get a little bit less, all the way up to $99,000. Or if you file jointly together, less than $150,000. These funds should be making their way to people here within the next few days. The IRS is launching a website. I think it's Where Is My Basic Payment? So just like you can go on irs.gov normally after you file taxes and go to their Where's My Refund portal, you'll be able to go to this Where's My Basic Payment portal. You can put in your information and you can track directly, hey, it's on its way, or they'll say, we don't have direct deposit information for you, input your information here. So that'll be happening here within the next few days. They say it should be live by Monday. Small businesses. On our telephone town hall, we had Jane Sawyer, who is the director for Hawaii's Small Business Administration office. And she had a lot of great information for small business owners. We had over 10,000 people who joined the call, who had very specific questions about loans, about grants. If you're in this situation, am I eligible? If you're a sole proprietor, are you eligible? So a lot of different detailed scenarios that she actually shed a lot of light onto. People, small business owners who are interested, I encourage you, go to my website, gabbard.house.gov, and you can actually hear a recording. You'll see a big banner there that's takes you to the coronavirus pandemic resource page, and you'll be able to listen to the telephone town hall and take some notes on things that may apply to you. It's not enough. You know, we're seeing our unemployment, people who are filing for unemployment at record numbers. The state of Hawaii and many other states are being completely overwhelmed with those requests for unemployment. The state of Hawaii is having trouble changing their system to include the plus up in unemployment funding that was passed in the last bill that we passed in Congress, which is an additional $600 a month on top of the normal unemployment payment. So there are some delays here. The state of Hawaii's got to work it out on the tech side on their end, but there are also some resourcing issues that for small businesses and some of the bureaucracy that the Senate is currently working on a bill trying to work out the partisan differences that we expect will be passed hopefully soon, get to the House to be able to get rid of those bureaucratic barriers and get more of the resources directly to small business owners who need them. There's a lot of other detailed information. I think that that's kind of the major highlights that we get asked about most often. Yeah, so let's open it up from there. I think that covers the basic.
Okay. Well,
Right.
let me, Mel, I want to ask the Congresswoman a question, and that is, if I may. Oh, Mel, you want to go first, Mel?
Well, I just wanted a clarification on the $600, the new bill.
Yeah.
I know, I think I saw it on CNN. I guess it pops up on my phone that it was 600 a week. Is it?
You are
600?
correct, actually, Mel. I misspoke. You are
Wow.
correct. It is an additional 600 a week.
Okay. Oh, thank
But
you.
the goal for that is, and the reason why they plussed it up was to try to put people in a position where they're able to earn close to, if not 100% of their normal income under their previous employment.
Awesome. Charlie, you had a question? I have a bunch of questions as it relates to the
Sure.
stimulus and unemployment. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. It seems, I guess most of us we're lay people, but yet I think we're a state of Hawaii where we're educated enough to kind of see what's happening, and we get asked this time and time again on all levels when we're doing our live feed, and that is, it seems strange that officials didn't think handling this crisis would be at this magnitude. It almost has the appearance that everyone's being caught flat-footed, yet just by on the onset of it, we could see the thousands involved. And then for us to react like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be this big attitude, it kind of shocks us, and it leaves many in disbelief and without confidence. Can you address that?
It's justified. There's no excuse for it. You're absolutely right. And looking at those who were paying attention to what was going on in China very early on, both the epidemiologists, the doctors, the banks, the government officials, it is something that our leadership should have taken notice of early on, not only to say, hey, this is serious. This is something that, given how interconnected our world is, given we've got direct flights coming from China to Hawaii, given how easy it is for people to travel from one place to another, therefore how easy it is for a virus like this to travel from one place to another, even though they didn't maybe know how infectious it was, they saw how rapidly it spread in China, how it completely shut down their economy, especially in Wuhan. to be able to forecast and have foresight and say, hey, this is something that we got to be ready for. Number one, to try to prevent it from coming here to our country, but especially here to Hawaii, where uniquely as an island state, we have the ability to actually do that, to isolate ourselves in a way that other states, the 48 contiguous states, they don't have that option. They're not shutting down all of their highways and their borders from state to state. And then even when we started to see it picking up in South Korea, in Japan, in Italy, and these other countries, still the kinds of extreme measures that should have been taken early on, they weren't taken. And we ended up in a position where we had leaders both here in Hawaii and across the country nationally who were trying to paint this happy picture like, yeah, it's we got it. We're going to deal with it. We're going to kill this thing. Don't worry, it only affects people who are over the age of 60. So if you're under that age, you're fine. You don't have anything to worry about. Go about your business and live your lives. It was all shibai and all putting this false sense of complacency on people rather than actually looking at the facts. I want to mention one specific example because this one really makes me mad, because even now here as early as a few hours ago today, we're still hearing from our State Department of Health officials that testing people without symptoms doesn't really work and it's not worth doing. But you go back, and I went back and I looked at where are the first scientific studies coming out of Wuhan in China. When did they start sharing information with the world saying, hey, we have young people who are asymptomatic, no symptoms whatsoever, who are infecting other people with this virus. They knew it then. The scientists started writing their papers to share with the world to say, hey, you guys, watch out. You got to know how dangerous this is. But the fact that as we're sitting here on April 10th in Hawaii, and our Department of Health director, by the way, who is not a physician or a medical professional, is telling the people of Hawaii, hey, yeah, we're not testing people without symptoms because, I don't think it really works. It's crazy. It's crazy. So until we get this mass testing happening, we don't know. We don't know. Things may be really great here, or they might be really, really bad. And the less informed we are, the more difficult it is for us as a state and communities to be able to do what's necessary and to protect each other and the lives of our loved ones.
Well, I've always been one that always said to even the individuals I work with, and we do a lot of stuff with, Homeland Security. I just said, you know what, we just prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't ramp up to that point, then God bless us. But
Yes.
if it does, at least we won't get caught with our pants down.
No regrets. Right? Exactly. No regrets. You want to have overreacted and be able to look back, be like, oh man, we overreacted, rather than looking back and being like, crap, there's so much more we could have done. So many more people we could have saved if only we had, right?
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say minimization, but it's kind of what it appears to be. Yesterday we had a 7-day, the report said we had 7 new cases, and I could see the message was changing. We may be entering the flattening of the curve. Charlie and I talk about this, and if you've watched any of our Facebook lives, we've been very critical of the way the state is handling this as far as the transparency. We still don't know how many tests we do on each island. They give this big number, or they don't know, because we have private labs doing testing, so we don't really get their numbers. The bottom line is we're not being told everything about this virus. We take a little dip, and as I talked about before you came on, I've seen the trends across the country in different states and municipalities where they've all seen the dip. The one day, and then pooh, right back up. And that's what we saw today. We had 2 more deaths. Yeah. We had 4 more cases connected to the cluster on Maui. That's serious stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't sense the urgency. And I think, thank you for your service in the military. I myself retired and been on numerous deployments. And I think I'm so used to the planning, the preparation, the preparing for the worst, the transparency. none of which I'm seeing right now. And that's the frustration, I think, of many people. I did want to ask, many people are asking about stopping of the flights.
Yeah.
We know that that has to come down from, obviously, the president.
Yep.
We know, according to David Ige, Governor Ige, that he's had communication with the FAA and they don't want to do it. We know that the governor never sent the letter, the request, to President Trump.
That came from and was supported by all 4 of our mayors.
Correct. All 3, right? Did
3.
Harry Kim actually sign?
I actually think he did. I think he did.
Okay,
I heard it was all
absorb the
4.
pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. But in his press conference a few days ago, he said he thought it was a waste of time to send this letter because 2 things. Number one, it would be difficult to implement and impossible to enforce. So it was a waste of time. And the best thing we can do is focus on the quarantine. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. I really would, because I mean, you write a letter, you get thousands of letters a day, probably. You write a letter, the answer is going to be yes or no. If it's yes,
right.
What's there to implement and enforce? The flights won't be coming. So there'd be nothing to enforce. So I was just curious what your thoughts on attempting, and did our delegation up at DC, you and the rest of them, ever have that discussion with the president or with the FAA or with anyone of the possibilities of possibly closing down our flights or restricting our flights to Hawaii?
First of all, I completely support the mayors in their statement and their push for this. I think it is trying to be diplomatic here, Mel. Look, I think that the governor's failure to not only pass those letters forward to the president, the FAA, and the administration, but even going one step further, the failure to fight for this and to push for it. Maybe the answer is going to be no eventually, but don't just call the FAA and say, hey, what do you think? Oh, well, we don't like it. It's to me, it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. The problem with solely relying on the quarantines is who is actually enforcing these quarantines. Only today are we seeing a website being launched and potentially an app for those coming to our state to be consolidated, have their information consolidated into one database and shared with the county so that the counties can follow up with enforcement. But this is what, again, April 10th, I tried to click on the website tonight. It doesn't work. This 2-week quarantine was announced, I believe, or implemented on March 23rd. And so what has been happening between then and now? We've seen over the last few days, some of the confirmed cases, positive cases, are coming from visitors who have come to Hawaii since this quarantine was implemented. So look, I think this falls far short of what needs to be done, both on taking action to try to get these flights stopped, all non-essential flights stopped from coming to Hawaii. And number 2, it is not clear in my mind at all what the enforcement of this 14-day quarantine order actually is and the tools that are necessary to be able to do that. I'll have to check with my staff. I don't believe that we have, as a delegation, sent a letter to the president and the administration calling for all flights to be stopped. But this is something that I have called for myself.
Now, can I ask her a question, please?
Absolutely.
Congresswoman.
Hey, sorry, Mel. I just wanted to tell you were right. Harry Kim did not sign the letter. You're right.
Thank you.
You're right, Mel.
Yeah, I try to keep up as much as I can, but
you're good, man.
As you know, man, it's just like a constant flow of information and misinformation. So we try to filter out what's not appropriate.
That's good. It's really important.
Charlie.
Okay, the question I had was regarding the quarantine. We knew, it's been preached, and I understand that A lot of the orders that have been levied by mayors of each respective county, like Kauai was first to levy the curfew,
Yes.
and that was to really give a break on our emergency service responders. Okay, give them a break. And this quarantine, the way it's being handled now, seems to be taxing that system because it's left up to our local law enforcement to go track these people down. How hard is it for the state? And you've been, yourself a state legislator later before.
Yeah.
How hard would it be for the state to actually have a government-run quarantine? Because I was always under the impression that if somebody gets off the plane and they go from point A to point B, you don't let them go traveling to C. You keep them in that corridor. By having them go on the honor system, that corridor basically disappears. And I've always said, if I was a betting guy and I spend this kind of money, even if they gave me reduced flights, hell, why should I get locked up for 14 days in my hotel room? So how hard is it to get a government-run quarantine established? Because we have it for our animals, our pets, but not for humans.
Yeah. I think the challenge would be with the capacity, number one, as far as, but there are ways to work it out. We have a bunch of hotels that are empty right now. That would be a first place that I would go to start to say, hey, and here's where I would start actually is you have somebody, Charlie, let's say, God forbid you tested positive, right? Then what should be happening, and this is what I've been pushing for now for weeks, what should be happening is you report that and health officials then say, okay, Charlie, who have you been in contact with for the last 14 days? Because just because you're getting symptoms now, you may have had the virus a week ago and not knowing about it and infected others. So then you start thinking, okay, well, I've got my family in my house, number one. I had to go to the grocery store and I saw these 3 people there, and you go down and you make this list of people who were in direct contact with you, give those names. All of those people then get tested, and all of those people then, until their test, if their test comes back, until their test result comes back, they need to be quarantined and isolated along with you, obviously. And this is what South Korea and other countries did in order to very quickly bring down the number of positive cases. Because then, let's say it was those 3 people in the grocery store. Say, okay, sorry, you saw Charlie and whatever, you were within a few feet of him. You got to go and quarantine yourselves. Put them, whether it's up in a hotel, the hotels can give a pretty discounted rate. They're not making any money anyway. Let's put you up in a hotel for 2 weeks, or until your test results come back and they say, okay, you're negative. Then you go back to the normal stay-at-home order. This contact tracing, testing, and isolation is necessary, and it's a proven public health policy to be able to prevent the spread of and to contain this virus. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, the Lieutenant Governor Josh Green announced during Governor Ige's press conference that this would finally be implemented. And now today, again, it sounds like Bruce Anderson at Department of Health is saying, well, we don't think we're actually going to be able to do this because it's too hard to track people down and we don't know if we have enough supplies to do it. So this is where the problems start coming into play. But like you said, similarly, there has to be a system in place to be able to make sure that those visitors or returning residents coming into Hawaii are actually following that 14-day quarantine. Whether they're at home or in a hotel room, whether it's, it's checking in and out, like, okay, hey, I'm checking out, I got to go to the grocery store, or I got to go to pick up my medicine, or whatever it is, there's got to be a system in place to be able to enforce it.
Well, Mel and I have been discussing this time and time again, and that is, and this is the law enforcement side, me being an officer from Maui, Mel being from here on Kauai. We always said that, it's always been flaunted that HIPAA. Mm-hmm. And I kept on saying, I don't want the person's name. I don't even want to know where they live. Yeah. I just want to know where they went, because if they said that, oh, I was at Kenny's Burger House on Thursday between 10 and 12, and I was there. He doesn't know me, therefore he wouldn't be able to give the name to the investigators.
True that.
But yet, if we got that news, I could actually monitor myself and say, hey, I was in the same area. You know what? I better stay away, and then I'll be watching for symptoms now, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we would be doing that.
Yeah.
So it seems strange that they wouldn't give us that information, and we've been asking that
very
for the
strange.
longest time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just so you know, Charlie, my staff is listening in, and they said, "Oh, Kenny sounds really Ono right about now."
Well,
We're
just tell your
getting
staff,
an-
I'm a Kalihi boy, so yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned. I get a lot of comments coming in, and I'm sure you'll take a look at it later. There's a lot of questions about the same things. A lot of frustration with the unemployment. You mentioned that in your opening
Yeah.
segment. A lot of questions with the inability for the state to manage this, the initial unemployment process. I get contacted by a lot of people telling me that they're getting this automated computer generated letters saying your claim has been denied because they haven't
Wow.
tweaked the system.
Yeah. Exactly.
A good friend of mine, it came back and said, sorry, you're denied. And then of course you got a call.
Yeah.
And it takes you about 4 days to get through. And I'm not exaggerating. It is. And then they came out and said this additional $600 supplement. They don't even know how they're going to manage that because they don't have the equipment, the resources or whatever. It's always about resources. Yet you have a ton of state workers that are at home that could be transferred over.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's so. I know that's a state issue.
The thing
not
you
yours.
said about the unemployment too, that people are getting their letters back, or emails back saying you've been denied. I think that's really critical because part of the legislation we passed dramatically opened up those what you would need to qualify for. So got rid of a lot of the normal barriers and obstacles that stand in the way of people getting their unemployment payment. Normally, it took a lot of those barriers away and opened up this unemployment to a lot more people who maybe normally wouldn't qualify outside of this situation. And so this failure of the system in treating people in a way that was pre-coronavirus rather than post the passage of this legislation, I think is a big problem.
And it's, my daughter lives in Oregon. My son and daughter live in Oregon. My daughter applied for the unemployment as soon as as soon as they opened it up. She already got her second check. And we have people on Kauai, or in Hawaii, I should say, that have only gotten letters saying they're denied. And one of my friends that called and we spoke, and I said, and it tells you get 10 days to appeal. Well, he finally got through and they said, oh, you can disregard that letter. That was just computer generated. Now imagine, right? Yeah, I'm still working, thank God. My wife's still working, thank God. But there are many people, 2 incomes are not working, and they're trying to figure out how do you pay the bills.
Yeah.
We understand there's all these relief packages and for the businesses, and we know the stimulus package. Okay, we heard that the first batch went out. I don't know what batch I'm in, but these people have no idea how they're going to buy food, and then they get a letter that says you're denied, and you can appeal. I can only say that is unacceptable, and that this state, for them to put that added stress on the people and to go up and testify in front of the Senate committee and say, I wish I had better news for you. We just, we cannot. We cannot. I mean, I don't know what these guys, if they've ever been in a situation where they don't have. I think that's the problem. All of the decision makers up there right now are haves.
Yeah.
And the ones that are struggling paycheck to paycheck, and now the paycheck stops.
Yeah.
Depression and all these things set in.
Yeah.
Just so horrible.
It is. And I think both of you guys can relate to this just from your careers and being, mission focused problem solvers, that if you've got a problem, number one, like you said earlier, there should have been some foresight in place, right, Charlie, to be able to say, hey, we see this coming down the pike. Let's start war gaming this through. Let's start working out the bugs. Let's make sure that our system is working. Even if you don't know all the details yet of is it going to be $200 or $600? That's a fill in the blank problem. but you know you're going to have a situation where you're going to be overwhelmed with people who are trying to who are filing for unemployment. That's where you start working through the problems, number one. And number two, if you're in this situation right now where you have an incredibly large number of people, like you said, Mel, who are stressed and filled with anxiety and uncertainty about how they're going to cover the basics, you got to arm them with information saying, hey, we acknowledge that you are experiencing these problems. Here is what we are doing to fix it. And here is our timeline that you can expect for us to be able to fix these problems. Give people information so it's not just like being left out in the dark and not knowing, if you're going to be able to pay the rent, not knowing if you're going to have a few bucks to go and buy groceries for the week. It's this lack of transparency. And like you said, Mel, a seeming kind of shrug of the shoulders, just say, sorry, it's not working, guys. Like, no shit, it's not working. People know that. They understand it.
Yeah,
They
She said it.
told
got
that.
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
The shit just
She
got
said it.
real.
She said
Man, I
it.
tell you. Oh man, man. You know, and that's why we're not here to bash anybody. We aren't. But I can tell you, I'm not. I get my information live from those guys' mouths, not
Yeah.
from Facebook or Google or I'm relaying what I'm hearing them say.
Yeah.
And the only way this is going to change is people got to rise up and say, hey,
Yes.
enough is enough.
Demand more from our leaders. I feel, yes, I am, Congresswoman from Hawaii. We're working hard at the federal level. I am frustrated by even the inability to try to get our state leadership to do what is necessary, even to try to get information from them. Because, we're getting people from across the state who are emailing and calling. Our calls and emails have gone up dramatically, especially over the last few days, of people telling us the same thing they're telling you, like, what is going on? What can we expect? When can we expect it? And we're trying to get information for them from this state. And it's incredibly frustrating to not be able to get those phone calls returned in a lot of cases and not be able to get the actual facts of the situation so that we can just pass it on to people. Given this situation, I think it is necessary for we the people to make sure that they are hearing all of us. I don't care if you're a congresswoman or a councilman or a retiree or a teacher or whatever. They have to understand that the status quo is not okay.
In a situation that we're in right now, especially, and I need to go back because I had a question on the back to the federal level.
Yeah.
One of my friends, and he's on here. I saw him. I don't know if he's still on, but I saw him come on earlier. He applied for the payroll protection program.
Yes.
Which is an amazing program, and he got accepted. He got accepted for X amount of dollars, but the bank told him that they're not even sure that it's going to get funded, and he's watching. I told him I would ask this question early on. Do you know anything about that? Is that program?
So did he get his funds or not?
No, he got approved. They they run through all his 2018 payroll records and all of that, and they come up with a figure. But the bank that he went to, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I know this guy basically told him there's a question of whether this program is going to be funded or not, if the funds are going to be released. Do you have any information on that?
That there should not be a problem with funding being released for that. I don't. That's the first time I've heard that answer.
Okay.
The only thing similar that I've heard is that some banks, because these programs are being accessed directly through financial institutions, through the banks, rather than actually getting the check from the Small Business Administration itself. There are some banks, even big national chain banks, who are saying that they have reached their funding capacity, their lending capacity. That's the only thing that might be remotely similar. It's not that the funding isn't there from the federal government, but it's that maybe there is a situation with a bank that has reached its own ability to physically pay out those funds at this time. But I'm going to follow up on that, because if that's the case, it's not a problem that I've heard about yet. And I've been on the phone every single day with congressional leaders about these different issues and updates.
I will send you the name of the bank offline
Yeah.
and even the name of the person, and maybe you guys can.
Yeah,
reach
we'd
out.
love to follow up. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Hey,
Charlie.
Mel, was this the bank that said yes or bank that said no? Which one was
The
it?
bank said yes. The bank said yes. It's just that the bank said yes, but they're concerned, and I think it sounds like more of what you're saying, Congresswoman, that the lending capability, they may have maxed out what they can. They
Yeah.
haven't received the funds from the federal government yet, so obviously, if you don't have the funds, you cannot lend it out. So, awesome.
Well,
Okay.
Congresswoman,
Yes.
this question, I kind of wanted to know because I've always been one that said, like, we talk about our battle plans, right? We got
Yes.
something coming down the pike. We're taking measures to curb the spread, which called for shutting down businesses. So we limit movement, right? So
Right.
nobody comes in contact. And I think that all of this planning should have been running simultaneously as we're doing it. But for some reason, and again, this goes back to whether we're prepared enough or not. So now it's sort of like the catch up. One is trying to catch up with the other.
Mm-hmm.
So now comes the economic recovery.
Yeah.
So when you've got businesses that are about to go under and they've pretty much tapped out at their lifeline is pretty much gone. Those kind of business puts into the infrastructure, whether it be a state or federal. And that's how we keep our economy going. Now, minus their assistance, because look like they might fall at the wayside. What kind of recovery plans are in place that you know of from the federal level, and how does it trickle down to the state level? Because I think right now there are so many people uncertain with what's happening in the state, and I'll just say for that, not so much for the federal, but for
Yeah.
the state. They announced all these new people coming on the task force, talking about economic rebuilding. And yet some of these individuals, we may know, and we're kind of like scratching our head like, how is that going to work? I mean, I know we're not going to build a go-kart track.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try to build and get ourselves back and running. What do you see as an economic recovery, or even building an economic engine to get us back? Because life as we knew it prior to the pandemic is never going to be the same.
No, that's correct.
We know that many years went into play to get us to that level, and all of a sudden it came to a drastic stop. So now we're kind of like picking up, going back to the 1800s and trying to ramp our way back up again. So can you maybe shed some light and tell us what you feel about that?
Yeah. This is an opportunity to, I don't want to say get ahead of the curve, but you're right. Now is the time that even as we are going through, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, can. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
It said my connection was unstable for a second.
You had a little.
Look, I think this is why right now.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think we're good now. All right.
You're good.
I think this is why it's important right now. This is why it was important that we got the support for small businesses in that third package of bills, and what will soon, we hope, to be passed through Congress in the next couple of weeks for small businesses. Because like you said, if we can prevent these small businesses, especially from going under, if we can help them keep people employed right now, even just to weather this storm, then it puts us in a better position once we're able to start having the conversation in a very real and practical way about economic recovery once the healthcare crisis is over. So I think that's number one about the things that we can and should continue to be focused on now. Number two is conversations are starting in Washington around what an economic recovery package would look like, but there will be another emergency bill that's passed through the House and the Senate that really does focus on investing resources into that rebuild and that recovery. There is a lot of talk happening right now about, shovel-ready infrastructure projects, things that we know have been needed for a long time. We know that the infrastructure needs in our state, whether you're talking about roads or water or sewers or schools or, you know, go down the list. There's a lot that we've needed for a long time. And so some of the conversations that we're starting to have is about even in agriculture, pretty much every sector of our community is what are the projects that are most quote unquote shovel ready? Is that a realistic picture? And what will it take to be able to start to reignite and inject those funds and those projects to get them going within our communities? I think the same thing is really going to have to happen once we get a more realistic assessment of what the economic needs of our state are, primarily with small businesses and employees. But also, if you look at some of the bigger businesses, I think the goal of this last package, which included loans for the tourism industry, for the airlines industry, to try to prevent us all from being in a situation where they have gone completely under and where we end up in a place where, you know, we don't have, you know, a major airliner or something like that. So I think it's a combination of both the prevention steps taken now, but also the recovery that we know is going to have to happen, and what that's going to look like. I think we can paint that picture with broad strokes now, and then have to just continue to assess the situation as we get closer to see, okay, what are the actual needs, and making sure that we meet them quickly.
Okay, thank you. And to just real quickly close up, I wanted to close my question to you.
Yeah.
You know, recently we got all these big CEOs of all these companies flaunting their wealth, and yet they're the same ones that asking for a bailout. And it's, you know, at a time like this, it kind of juggles the mind a little, and
Yes.
it puts a real bad taste in everybody's mouth. What's your take on this? What's your take on this?
I think that people haven't forgotten what happened after the Wall Street bailout, where those dollars that came from us as taxpayers really went straight into the pockets of these big bankers, their CEOs, their big multi-million-dollar bonuses, et cetera, et cetera. And we've got to make sure that that doesn't happen again. There were some provisions that were put into this legislation capping CEO salaries in what they're allowed to be making during this time, because they, you know, even if you take out the taxpayer dollar, the taxpayer bailout, for lack of a better word, they can't come hat in hand saying, hey, we need help, if they're still pulling a $15 million salary or a $5 million salary. They got to be putting their money where their mouth is. I think we've seen a few CEOs taking no salary whatsoever. But for those that aren't doing the right thing out of the goodness of their heart, there was a cap on CEO salaries that was actually put into that legislation to try to prevent what happened before from happening again. Saying all of that, that's just one thing. That's just CEO salaries is just, I mean, it's a smaller drop in the bucket when you're talking about a $2 trillion bailout package. What to speak of the $4 trillion that the Treasury Department has and the Fed has to be able to do what they want to bail out other industries. It's an incredibly huge amount of money. There has never been a bigger bailout package than that one. And I had a lot of concerns, and I struggled a little bit with this bill as it was being packaged together, because of that fact that when you look at it in its totality, there is a relatively small amount of money going to individual Americans and small businesses, and a massive amount of money going to these corporations. And you know, are there sufficient checks and balances in place to prevent a total abuse of that? I don't think there was enough. It was a tough thing to do, because, you know, you don't want to stand in the way of this assistance getting to the people who need it the most. But this goes back to the deeper issue of why this package was built the way that it was. You had a ton of lobbyists for these massive corporations. They got their way in there, and they were saying, hey, well, we need X billion dollars here, or we need X billion dollars there. And they can do that because they have bought their seat at the table.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, Mel?
Yeah, I got a question from a viewer. You have an employer that doesn't furlough their employees. One of the employees has underlying medical condition and doesn't feel safe going to work because there is contact with the public. It's an essential job.
It
Underlying
is an
medical
essential job.
It is an essential job.
Okay.
Um, is there a provision in there for a situation like that for the unemployment if they're not laid off or they're not furloughed? I'm not sure. I don't believe there is because the job is still there.
Yeah, this is I don't know is the short answer to that question. This is something that we were just talking about on our office call earlier today, and we're trying to get more information to cover a few of those situations. Number one is if you're an employee of a business that's remaining open, that is not an essential business, but they're making you show up at work and you don't feel safe doing so. We're trying to figure out from the state or the county for that matter, what's the number that you call if you're a whistleblower in that perspective saying, hey, my employer's not doing the right thing, but I don't know what to do. They're saying I got to show up for work. I don't feel safe in doing so, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to get the right point of contact for that. That's really more of an enforcement issue. And I'll follow up and get back to you, Mel, on your specific question that if it is an essential job, but this individual has underlying health conditions that must be taken into account, and the employer is unduly putting them at risk, we'll try to find the right person or entity to address that so they can get taken care of.
Thank you very much. I did want to mention only because I just thought about it. You know, Mark Zuckerberg just donated $1 million to Kauai. That just came out today in a press conference or press release. Money's being managed by Hawaii Community Foundation. It's for rent assistance and all kinds of stuff. So I just wanted to put that plug in before I forget. Because as we're talking about all these billionaires, millionaires, rich, he did just drop $1 million today for Kauai, and I wanted to just say thank you publicly out there. So
that's good.
Anyway,
I know Hawaii Community Foundation's been doing. I've been hearing separately from a lot of different people on their own about how they're really stepping up to fund the purchase of personal protective equipment, masks, and so forth for our healthcare workers who aren't getting them either from their employer or from the state, stepping up with funding for testing kits to be able to once again help provide the opportunity for testing that's not coming from the state, but it is being done privately. So Hawaii Community Foundation, a lot of the folks who are giving money there have really been critical in helping provide those essential services.
And Joy and Jenny out there just doing a heck of a job for them on Kauai. So thank them all. So a lot of unknowns right now, especially here on Kauai and on Honolulu. I mean, they're going to do a pilot curfew now. Maui's doing a pilot curfew. I gotta say, our mayor stepped up front. Boom, he did the curfew right away. Everybody went nuts. Now everybody's happy that he did. He did the stay at home. He did the closings of all these different things. People go nuts for a little while, and then they understand why. He just shut down the golf courses, which I gotta tell you, you know, he was on this broadcast right here a week or so ago, and he said, "You guys keep on abusing it. I'm gonna clip it." That's exactly what he said, and he did. Yeah. We still have a lot of people abusing on the beaches, hanging out. I understand they arrested or cited 20 people on the west side today. They're not paying attention. They're not following the rules. Yeah. And I support our mayor and what he's doing. I support him 100%. And I would support if he did a complete lockdown. I guess the question to you, Congresswoman Gabbard, is you're there. You're like right near New York. You've been in meetings that talk about the crises throughout the country. Should we be concerned here in Hawaii? Should we err on the side of safety versus keeping the public in the dark, making it appear like, hey, don't worry, we'll get through this? Yeah, we will, but I'm concerned, and we haven't chatted before this meeting to discuss what we're going to talk about.
No.
I'm curious to know, you from DC, meeting with people that from New York and from all of this Washington and Florida, from these hot spots. What is your advice for the people of Hawaii? We got people from all over the state, all over the country on this call, and by the time this goes through the cycle, we'll have people from everywhere. What is your advice for us here in Hawaii as we climb this curve of uncertainty?
We cannot take anything for granted. Yes, we will get through this together, but we will only beat this virus by standing together and doing it. If there is a weak link in the armor, then it's something that doesn't just put you or your loved ones at risk. It puts our entire community at risk. This is not something that only affects people of a certain age bracket. This is something that has a very direct negative impact on every one of us of all ages, even kids. I have friends of mine, people who I have met, people who I know personally in New York City right now who have coronavirus and who are, some of whom are really, really, really struggling. These are healthy people. These are people who run marathons. These are people who look after their diet and all of the different things that they're saying, oh, well, you'll be fine if you're healthy or if you're young. It's not the case. So all of the measures that we know of, stay at home. I'll just give you an example. My mom called me last night and it's my birthday on Sunday. And she's like, well, honey, we kind of wanted to have everybody over. We could just be in the yard and stay far away from each other. But it's like, no, Ma, not going to happen. We'll celebrate all the birthdays in a few months when this whole thing is over. We'll have a big old party. Everything will be fine. Stay at home. Don't go out unless it's absolutely necessary. There are apps out there, even for groceries. I used an app this morning and go into Safeway. I got what I needed. It was delivered within a few hours. There are things that we can all do, that we must do to minimize our own exposure and therefore minimize exposure to others. I went out for a jog this morning, wore my mask out for a jog because I knew other people would probably be out there, to protect myself and to protect other people. Follow the curfews, wear your mask in public, stay at home. Don't bring your groceries into your house until you have decontaminated them outside. This virus is something we know lives on, whether it's cardboard boxes or plastic wrap or other surfaces. Don't bring your mail in the house until you have either opened it up, decontaminated it, or opened it up and thrown it in the trash outside. And then make sure you wash your hands and your arms really well. Stay at home. You are saving not only the health and well-being and lives of yourself and your loved ones, but of our community and this state that we love so much. We cannot be complacent. No matter what the leadership of our state does, yes, we got to continue to push them to do the right thing, but we got to stand up and make sure we stand up for each other and protect each other, no matter what.
And I think that's the message we have been trying to push out. I know there's a lot of people out there that think we're overreacting, that thinks the mayor's overreacting, that thinks Kauai only get 8 cases or 19 cases. We have, I think, 7 or 8 active cases. But why we got to do all of these things? And I think they don't understand. I will say Charlie just lost his brother a few days ago, COVID-19, up there in New York. Justin, our prosecutor. Yeah, and it's personal for him, and it happened relatively quickly. Justin Kohler, our prosecutor, was on our show as well. His stepmom and dad are in Pennsylvania. Both of them have COVID-19 right now.
Gosh.
So, I'm not going to say I get frustrated, but I really don't like when I hear the comments that, my God, we're okay. We don't have to be in prison. We don't have to, because ask Charlie about that.
Yeah.
Ask the families of all of those people that are dying in New York and everywhere else about that.
Yeah.
This is real.
Yeah.
And I know we're running out of time, so I did want to, this is a really good question, just came in. It says, Mel, I read something today that said when all is said and done, this will be no worse than a higher end, more active flu season. More along the lines of conspiracy theory. Can you and Congresswoman Tulsi shed some light? We, in 18 months or so, we'll have a vaccine. They're working on some antidotes, some medication. When all is said and done, this virus will be probably a very manageable virus once we get through the vaccines. And once we understand all the studies are done from all of the patients that lived and died. But for right now, we're not there yet.
We're not
there.
we're not even close.
Correct.
Right
You know,
now.
Mel, can I shed some light on it?
Please.
And I'm trying not to be hard on anyone. I wish it was a flu, because my brother has survived many flus.
Yeah.
This one, he was in a battle that it was like no other. So that's all I can say to these people who think it's a flu. It's not. Yes, we have some people. We have a lot of success stories. Okay,
Yeah.
those people have to say, you know, they probably were lucky that they had maybe a lighter strain of the virus. But then, like you said, Congresswoman, you got friends who are healthy, and they get nailed right between the eyes, and it's like, you know, where did this come from? You know, they don't have diabetes, they don't have any underlying medical condition except this virus. So people, it's real. It's real. This is no joke. This is real.
Yeah, and you know better than most because it's hit you so close to home. And I think the whole point of what we're saying here is don't wait until it takes someone that you love in your family to wake up to the reality of the threat that this poses. You know, the reality is this is not the flu. It's not the flu. It is far worse, and it is far more infectious. It is much easier to pass on to others. Nobody is safe from this. I cannot reiterate this enough. And if you want to say those kinds of things, and if you really believe that, well, hey, this is just another flu, you can believe that. Stay at home. Stay at home, and don't put anybody else at risk because of your doubts about the reality of this. Because look, we don't want more families, whether it's here in Hawaii or across the country, to have to experience the loss of a loved one to realize the seriousness of this, which is why it's so critical that every single one of us does our part. We talk a lot about aloha in Hawaii. I want to leave on a positive message with everyone. Let's be clear-eyed. Let's understand the truth and the reality of the situation that we are in. It's not about just kind of being depressed and sitting at home. No, because we are taking proactive action. Living aloha means taking care of ourselves and taking care of our loved ones and our communities by doing the right thing. And that is the most important thing. Every day as we get up thinking like, oh man, this sucks, I got to stay at home. You know what? That's aloha, brah. That's aloha. Stay at home.
Well said. Well said. Thank you for being here tonight. I know.
Thank you
like I said, I
guys.
know
This
you're
is
very
awesome.
busy.
Thank
You know,
you.
you have an open invitation anytime you want to come up here. And
Thank you.
you know, I did want to say, you know, our first two cases in Hawaii that ended up on a ventilator was two young guys. One was from Kauai,
Yeah.
young, healthy,
Yeah.
muscular. You know, local guys that were young, and they both are doing better.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case.
It's not. And I'll just add on that because you mentioned the ventilators. We don't have enough ventilators in this state if we get to the point of crisis at the level of a New York. Let's just start there with understanding that. And the second thing that doctors and medical professionals are saying, that if someone is sick enough where they have to rely on a ventilator, it's a 50-50 chance that you're going to survive, even with the assistance of a ventilator. So again, the seriousness of this is, it can't be understated. I just want to mention to people who are watching this, Kaulana Finn is my on-island Kauai representative. I want to give her number 245. I'm sorry, this is not Kaulana's number. 286-7449. 286-7449 is Kaulana's number. And also for small businesses on Kauai, the Kauai Chamber can help with your business loan applications. They are at 245-7363. Lastly, if you would like to join into my weekly coronavirus-focused telephone town halls, you can sign up on my website, gabbard.house.gov. They are every Wednesday at 4 p.m. and you've got to sign up online in advance. When you sign up, your phone will ring at 4 o'clock and you'll be able to join the call. They usually last about an hour long. We have different guests from both private and public agencies available directly to answer people's questions.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I-
Have a good night,
I'm
you
sorry,
guys.
I just, there's 3 gunshots just went off right up my house. I hope they're hunting.
I hope so
Not supposed to
too.
be, but
What time does your curfew start?
9 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Everybody's used to it. It's working well.
Okay, good.
So again, thank you very much. 4. Can you guys hear that?
I thought I
cannot.
heard something just then. I didn't hear the other ones.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we don't like
On
we
that
like to be on that- kind of messed my head up, but want to just thank you again for being here and sharing with Kauai.
Thank
We
you,
all
Mel.
appreciate. They'll here right here on my text. Did anyone hear large explosions in Wailua? Yeah, I did. Open invitation anytime, Congresswoman. You want to come back?
Thank
You got
you.
some updates you want to do? Please. Oh yeah. Now you're
I
gonna
look
you
forward to it.
wanted to always end with a positive note. I don't know if you have a utensil. Oh, it's fireworks. It's fireworks.
Okay, good.
Great. Celebrating the curfew. So we again tomorrow night we have Senator Cochi, Senator De La Cruz. We're gonna be talking about what we're talking about tonight, the state issues. Getting some answers to our questions.
Good.
They've had several Senate committee hearings. I've watched a few of them, and they're struggling, trying to get answers
Yeah.
from the administration. So we'll be able to ask tomorrow. Taking off on Sunday, Easter Sunday. Everybody, you stay home and relax and enjoy your Easter. If you got to do it by Zoom with your family, do it by Zoom, but stay at home. Don't go out. And on top of that, we close our show every night like this. You're gonna love it, Congresswoman.
Well, you got to tell her why we do this, Mel.
Well, you see, we started this a while ago, and we said that the whole objective was one to flatten the curve. But as we kept pounding that in people's heads, they didn't listen. So we came up with this brilliant idea that if they're not going to flatten the curve, then we are going to flatten the music. That's how we do it. People come on, especially to watch us. Ready, Charles?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, here we go.
Ay-yo-yo, ay-yo,
Good night, everybody. Aloha.
Good night, everybody. Take care. God bless. Happy Easter for all of you. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Take care. God bless. Thanks again, Congresswoman.
Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you.
Aloha.